Cass County Public Library Board of Trustees regular meeting for December 18, 2024. Let's do our
Pick a climb here.
Sherry Peters here.
Dennis Minnick here.
Diana Larson here. And Tanya Long as well. Let's say the pledge. We'll stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Motion for the agenda. Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor of approving the agenda say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Excellent. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Was there any questions that anybody had with respect to the consent agenda? I just noticed that there were 2 checks for Midwest Case. Is it just 2 that we got another bill we're able to pay it for, or how's that?
No, because we had a balance that we could use to put towards hoopla in advance of it being used. We went ahead and so that $19,000 is like a bank to pull from for the next few months, because what we got budgeted for next year and the popularity of it, it was a little concerning to me.
Yeah,
Because we had the money available at the end of this year, I wanted to go ahead and kind of front load there.
That's cool. All right, cool. And I always just like to ask on there was Scott Rice Office Works that shows furniture. I just like knowing like those locations.
Office chairs across.
Fun.
Well, we did a big order last year for office chairs, and when everything was said and done and distributed, it wasn't a complete order like we thought. And so a lot of us, including myself and you, I think,
Yeah.
still were using the old broken chairs. So we went ahead and did a big order to hopefully fill
And
the
a
hole.
lot of NRC.
Yeah.
NRC, I think, kind of got missed. So we finished them up and then added in anybody else that didn't get desk chairs initially.
Yeah.
Cool. Anyone else have anything? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
And I'll second that. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. We do not have any public comments this evening. We're just going to move ourselves on down to the PTO policy draft. So
I didn't get my packet. Can I see that? Just in case.
You know, last month I didn't get mine until like a week later after the meeting.
Yeah, I'm going to start picking mine up.
I found that in November of last year and November of this year. I got my packet like 5 days after the meeting. Only in November, but interesting. And just being like we have a public water supply district number 7, and I've been noticing we hadn't received our water bill. I called them like, oh yeah, a few people have been calling. Well, we got a call today saying the post office has lost our bills that we sent out, and they don't know where they are. So to find out what your bill is, go here. I was like, okay, so maybe the post office is.
Well, I could read it all online, but I thought I had printed out the old policy, but I needed a refresher on the new policy. But
Okay.
Yeah, so this, we just want to add this into our policies because the PTO is slightly different than the sick leave and the vacation leave that we have, and we're introducing it with this new part-time flex role. So it's not specific to the reason why you're taking off, like sick would be, or vacation. So And I did get a question, email question regarding PTO, like what it looks like in the private sector, and like how it would be granted and if it applies to part-time staff in that case also. And I mean, really, like with anything, it kind of depends on the organization, but I know that PTO, um, and just generalized paid leave that's not specific to sick or vacation or whatnot has been trending, in all sectors of employment, for quite a while. But the things like the methods to accrue and like the limits that you have and any kind of payouts and things like that, those definitely vary by organization because those aren't legislated. So.
Is there a reason that we're trying to do it different for part-time flex people? Because I was thinking, I was understanding ultimately the idea is to get all the part-time employees to the part-time flex, right? So why you do the difference? Because it seems, I'm not an employee, but I was looking going, okay, so when I look at like vacation and sick, I'm looking and going, okay, so if I work 10 hours a week, I'm working 20 hours and I get an hour vacation or six. So I'm only working 20 hours and I get the same 2 hours. And then I'm looking at a person who works, say, their 2 weeks, they're having to work, they're working 58 hours to get 2 hours. If they work 29 hours a week, these people are having to work 30 hours to get 2 hours. Like, I, I don't know. It took me back to when we had the whole old payroll, the way the old payroll was, and it was so confusing and strange. And I was like, I just wondered, is maybe what problem we're trying to solve, and is this the best way to go about it? Because my mind was like, oh my gosh, I remember just trying to understand the compensation thing for pay all those years ago, going, I feel like only Pat can make sense of this. Or maybe only Lori can make sense of it. I don't even know if Lori can, we could make sense of it fully. So that was where I just had some questions as to, like, just that.
Let me take from.
Yes.
PTO is actually the neutral. That's why I want us to go to. You can't just say, tomorrow we're turning on taking vacation and we're going to be PTO. There is a process you have to go through to get them. This is kind of a little bit of the introduction to it. So if we can introduce it and keep it, get it going in that direction, then hopefully this year we can do PTO time versus sick and vacation.
Like by the end of the year,
By the end of the year,
transition.
because I tell you, they do not like sick and vacation.
Yeah.
They want it to be PTO because in PTO, you don't have to
Have a
say,
reason.
I'm sick, so I need my time off.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to do with sick time. You have to say, I'm sick, taking this off. You don't have to write in the, what you have, but, you do have to say that. With PTO, you could take it for any reason. It doesn't make any difference. That's the direction I want to move in. That's where I want to get everybody. But there is a process because we have to stop at a certain point with what we currently have and uh, start with the PTO. I've got two different plans already laid out. Partially on paper, partially still in my mind of ways to do this. And I think I know the method I want to use. And so I think as we go on into this year, we'll be able to switch it over to PTO time.
Okay, that's super helpful. Because I was like, oh my gosh, what is happening here? The only thing I was going to ask is on the sick leave, I don't remember seeing it on the vacation leave. It just says each employee, the current sick leave one, and I just thought, I don't know if, I know you kind of address it uh, in the part-time off or the PTO for flex. Um, but I just wanted to make sure like we weren't going to be contradictory in any way.
I didn't think so because that's why I went back to two policies and they did one policy.
Would this be for both full-time and part-time? Everybody moved to it? Because right now it only addresses the
Right
part-time.
now, it's only addressing part-time. That's just our beginning.
Okay.
Because they're already giving them that PTO time. So I want a policy to back it up. I want somebody to say, here it is. This is what we're talking about. So I'll put that policy out there so they can see that.
And this is for all newly hired people going forward.
Correct. Correct. And once we get everybody switched over, the single vacation policy will go away. And that part-time PTO policy will become
a time off policy.
Correct.
Okay.
So hopefully that helps a little bit.
Okay, and then I like the way it's, you can use it however you want. But then I was thinking, I was just looking at the hours. For 30 hours, you get 2 hours, which means you work 120 hours in a month and you get 8 hours. But then I was looking at, I called some different professionals because I haven't been in the working world. And so, um, so how long does it take you to earn or accrue a day off? And so these full-time, so people who are working 40 hours, actually these were all professionals on salary, and most of them are putting in 60 to 75 hours a week. But they would get vacation and sick, but combined, which is what we want to do.
Yes.
It was a day and a half a month. But let's just say they're not putting in 60 or 75 hours, they're putting in 40. And so they're working 160 hours a month for 1.5 days. And so I just wanted to be careful that we're not giving more than the person in the private sector. So have you looked? Because I only asked 3.
Oh yeah, I mean
Is this an average?
It really is. If you go by company, I mean, if you go back to Walmart, they changed that back in 21, I think it was. They have PTO time, they have protected PTO time. They have like 4 different things that they call learners. And each one you accrue it differently. So it depends upon the company of how they accrue it. There's hardly any two that are identical. Some of them go by years of service. If you have, 0 to 3 years, you accrue this. If you have, this, you
Does it
accrue
kind of go
this.
along with this part-time idea of 0 to 5 complete year
It's
type
kind of
thing?
like that, yes. And that's what a lot of, not a lot, some of the private companies are that way. That's how they do theirs. Is they go by years of service also.
I guess my bottom line would be when the transition is done, they're going to end up with the same number of days or hours as they would have in the combined now.
We're not going to cut them back.
Right.
Yes.
And we're not at.
It's not more. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, we won't cut them back as far as that goes. And that's why I said that's what the tricky part is that you have to make sure of how you do this. What I want to do is freeze where they are, and then we pick up from there. That's kind of how you do it.
The other question I had was, okay, this is kind of, I'm trying to understand, this is kind of part of the pay package, like, right?
Yes.
The compensation package. Is there a reason why if somebody's been here for all these years, we're only going to pay them out 50%? I was looking at, maybe go back and look at the vacation and sick as well. I'm like, isn't it, if it's just part of like their compensation, can't we just give it all to them? They accrue? Because there's a max and everything that they can accrue.
Correct.
So
There is, and again, I'll go with all companies, it depends upon the company. Some don't pay it out at all. There is no law that says you have to pay it out. So we pay right now, we pay vacation at 100%. We pay sick at 20%.
Yep.
Okay.
I know I was like, did I ever pay attention to that before?
Yes.
So I'm like, why are we doing that? That's just me, like going, oh,
It's just the different way you pay different things out because there is
okay.
no guarantee from the government that says you have to pay it out. And some states do.
Okay.
Not one of the states.
Gotcha.
I do that.
Okay.
We could come back with really what we want to do as we go forward. 50% on the PTO part, that's what you're talking. We kind of looked at that. Robin and I looked at that. We looked at what it would be at 100%, at 20% and kind of get into the middle of that.
Is there a max?
180 hours.
Is it on here?
Right.
Oh, there it is.
Yes.
Okay, 100. So ultimately, I mean, this is like your template of where you want the whole entire system to be. Correct?
As we go forward, it will be higher than 180 hours.
So that will adjust.
Yes, that will adjust as we go
Is it
forward.
going to be going more back to like that 240 hours?
Yes, it'll go up again. Yes,
Okay.
yes, it definitely will.
Okay. I don't know. That's just one of the things that to me, I was like, well, if we're hiring people, we're saying you can earn this PTO. Like, why wouldn't we just pay it to them?
Well, one of the considerations for that is that is when they separate and get the payout, that is when there's an actual financial impact to the library.
Right?
There's not one just to give people time off and pay them, because we've already budgeted that we're paying them for an entire year of work. But there is the fiscal impact when they do separate. And so
Yeah.
usually, I don't know too many places that give you all of it 100%.
That's right.
Okay.
In some places will be done.
Yes.
Working, what's left in PTO is left in PTO or separate vacation, you get nothing.
Or you like, as you're coming to your days that you're leaving, you're taking all those days and.
Bingo.
Okay.
Schools have changed from sick leave to PTO
Yeah.
in the time
I
since
like
I've
the idea
retired,
of
but many school districts do not pay you for the time you use.
A lot of them don't.
They don't.
Should.
Yeah.
So I kind of base it off of our policies, and that's what I talked about.
And one other thing I'd like to say is, we do compete with private sector for, qualified experienced staff, and the benefit package is part of that competition. So I don't have a problem with giving more than the private sector might if it fits into what we're trying to do. So.
And so if somebody worked 10 hours a week, it would take 3 weeks to earn 2 hours. Because
Yes,
okay,
that is
okay,
correct.
right.
It's for every 30 hours
Yeah.
they work, not 30 hours in a paid period, or 30 hours in a week.
That just seems
Yeah.
so much simpler and like understandable. So I like it. I figured it. I knew you were going to be here. You're always here. But I knew you were going to be here. I'm going to be like, okay, how? Like there has to be some way we're getting from where you're trying to get to, and I know you well enough to know you've got a plan of how you want to get there. So
That's the beginning.
yes, got you. Okay, so this covers everybody. Current, I mean, we'll cover everybody that's currently either working here or being hired here from this, whatever we set this, like if we approve it, then it's from tonight forward, all new hires.
Yes.
Or is it
Part-time flex hires.
Part-time, sorry, yeah, part-time.
Part-time flex hours, yes.
But we're eventually gonna move them all to this system. We're not gonna have part-time employees and part-time flex employees. It's just gonna be full-time, part-time, but everybody's gonna be PTO, non-sick, and vacation. I like that.
That's really just
But you're starting it, you guys started it, and then we're progressing along it. So you're hoping by the end of the year,
I'm definitely
before.
Want to or before.
Okay, wow. So
That's what I.
in less than a year, you want it to be all encompassing.
Yes.
All right, I like it. I like it a lot.
Can you vote on it rather than think about it?
This isn't a bylaw thing, so this is.
You can,
It's a
if you want to,
policy.
you can do it.
If we want to. I feel like I was talking all the questions.
Oh,
Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah,
What do you,
okay.
anybody else have any other thoughts? What do you guys think about how it's written? And
It's
I
fine.
mean, I like the movement towards that personally. It's way simpler than what we currently have. Yeah, new hires would prefer that. That's it. So it's just, do we need to adopt it or is?
Yes, you would need to.
It doesn't need the 3 readings or whatever.
No.
That's your time loss.
I guess my only question is, since it's this late in the year, should we just make it effective the 1st of January?
We already have people in this policy.
Oh.
We have people, new hires we just hired, because we had very rarely we'll put something in without testing it out first. We have to make sure it works.
Yeah.
And I work with AP, who's our service provider, to get this going. So I had to have people into the job in order to make sure our accruals are working correctly to give them the time.
So part of the motion, can I make a motion?
You can.
Are you guys done? I make a motion to review the policy, PTO policy
For part-time flex.
for part-time flex.
I'll second that. All right. Okay, the motion on the table is to approve the policy for full-time on for part-time flex workers that we were presented. We'll take a roll call vote. Becky?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Dennis?
Yes.
Diana? Yes. Tanya? Yes. Give me time, Pat. All right. Now we will move to the Harrisonville operational fee modification. I gave you guys a copy of, so in the past, since April of 2023, the library has modified its payments to the CCIC to exclude the building replacement fund, the building maintenance recovery fund. The library really has two ways it can go. We can either pay the full amount, or I put together, if we separate that out, the total expenses projected for 2025 is $123,760. We occupy 88.5% of the building, so 88.5% of that is $109,527 total for the year for 2025. Divided by 12 months. I'm saying all this just because so people divided by 12 months would be $9,127.30. That we would pay to the CCIC for the operational costs here minus those two funds. So we can go, obviously it's just one of two decisions. The library pays the full amount, which is $10,034.42, or we amend that to $9,127.30. You know, how we follow through.
Can we go through the CCIC budget? Since I think not knowing what a lot of these things are and what we pay for, I don't know how much information you have then since you're new on that board. You don't go down through, the first one's easy. You know, city person, that's water, sewer, electric, spires, gas.
No, I think that would include also trash. This
Here's my trash.
No, I'm saying
Yeah.
Harrisonville trash. Now, the library does pay for trash.
And
We started doing that.
They don't allow, they shut us off from it.
Yeah, they
CCIC shut us off from using their trash bin.
so we pay additional for
We
trash.
pay additional for trash
We pay $147 a month for trash.
for this building alone.
Okay.
That's correct, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So what about Brightspeed? That's internet.
It's got to be a good thing because
That's not ours.
That's not ours.
We go through MoreNet for our internet.
But is it wireless here in the building?
Well, no, not necessarily. So, Brightspeed is a provider for overall repairs, but we specifically go through MoreNet at all of our locations, excluding Archie and the Annex,
Right.
for our internet service because they go out and contract it. So, Brightspeed has nothing to do with the library portion.
It's not our like phone.
But is it available to us? Like if I turn on my phone, am I going to see Brightspeed? I'm not going to see anything today.
No.
But
No, but you'll see a CCIC wireless network, I
Will.
believe, that we do not
Yeah,
connect
it's
to.
a password.
So we're paying. So we're paying for their internet.
Well, that is new. That's not been on past.
we're paying for an internet service that we can't use
So
And trash we can't use.
and trash we can't
I
use.
don't know
Okay.
what the trash total is, but I mean,
There's not a separate pickup. I think the only pickups
Yeah, we only have
are
one
what
that's
we
free.
pay for at this building.
so what's the city? What is the city of Harrison?
Electric, probably.
I'd say water, sewer.
So does
Yeah,
does
pretty
does
water,
the
sewer,
Historical
electric.
Society throw their trash in the same bin?
Yes.
So the city of Harrisonville is water, sewer, and electric.
So it's just
Who is our, who's our trash provider?
GFL.
Is it Country?
Yeah,
Countywide.
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 Okay, so insurance, that's, I assume insurance is on the building, because we insure contents separately, right?
Yeah.
Custodial supplies, yard maintenance, general maintenance.
And general maintenance down there, they do kind of give you a breakdown.
Right.
Yeah.
So the service master, the cleaning charges, are we providing separate custodial services in addition to this service master?
So I can kind of break that down a little bit. We do provide separate cleaning services specifically once you get past those downstairs doors. Like once you're past the entryway, we do everything inside the physical library. Their service does pretty much both entryways and and I believe Pearson Farm they go to.
And upstairs.
Upstairs bathrooms. Sorry.
So we do the branch and admin is what we pay for.
So this is paying for basically the upstairs hallway and the Historic Society offices and Pearson Hall that we don't
have
and we
access to.
don't have access to, and we're not getting the rent from Pearson Hall or
And then it does the 2 bathrooms upstairs.
the 2 bathrooms.
So that's for 2 bathrooms and a hallway.
And their office and.
I mean, no, like for what we.
Who cleans the bathrooms down here?
I believe that's our crew.
Okay.
I will say, I'm not going to quote this. I don't think they end up cleaning the Historical Society office, just because I've never seen them go in there ever. I've ran across Janet a few times. It's their cleaning lady, so I don't think they do that. But everywhere else, yes.
Okay.
Is that questionable?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Professional services? Is that for accountant?
It's, yeah, that's what we were wondering.
That's a good question.
Nobody knows. That's one is wages.
That's probably Van.
That's
It's the building guy.
Yeah, CCIC has a maintenance guy that they pay part-time to do
He responds.
work around here.
And there has been an improvement since Van came on versus it was, well, who on the CCIC is going to go take care of that toilet today? So since Van came on, that has been an improvement in my opinion.
There's at least a person that I can point to.
Yeah.
You can call and say. Hey,
Instead of going down the list of CCIC members, like,
Yeah, admittingly, I don't have experience from that part, because I guess I'm lucky that I've been on here since then. But yeah, I will say, at a bare minimum, I know who to call.
Say, Becky, of all the people here, it's you and me that.
well, when Mary was on the CCIC, a lot of times they would just call her.
Yeah.
And she'd have to find somebody, and as the secretary and the person that wrote the checks. And so finally, she convinced them to work with Van.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, the 2 different funds. So
I'm curious about wages.
well, that's what we just talked about.
Okay,
This
that's what his
it's
was.
part-time, that's the person.
Okay, I was thinking maintenance was a separate part. I apologize.
Yeah, so then we have, and so I've always wondered, how do they determine the amount that goes in the building replacement fund and the building maintenance recovery fund? We don't know.
We do not.
We have no idea.
The only thing we ever receive is something that looks similar like this.
So we don't see bills paid, what was actually spent, or what
Yes.
money actually is in these funds, we don't know.
Stuff. It used to be very detailed information. As apparently as the years have gone by, that has diminished to where we receive this once a year. So they did used to do that back in the day.
I guess another thing that I question is I just note that there's budget was adopted on July the 18th, which means that the library would not have been represented at that meeting.
It's interesting, this letter showed up on the internet this week.
Really?
at the Cass County Transparency. All of this was on the internet this week.
Well, and let's see, they show amount, our proposed rent amount in the historic society. Is that when the historic society is going to start paying rent?
It's always shown that, all the years.
Even all these years, and they haven't paid any rent, and we're paying all the expenses.
So we're paying at least our 88.5%, or whatever it's been, it's changed over the years.
But you've taken away our admin use of Pearson Hall,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
And our trash.
Well, these costs still have to be paid, but we're not paying it, so they're pulling it out of these funds or somewhere, because the trash bill's still getting paid.
Correct.
So,
Well, no, we're paying the trash.
okay, so the
Yeah.
gas bill, let's say.
Yes.
It's still getting paid, even if
Yes.
the historic society's not paying anything, and so it's getting paid from these reserved funds that we've paid into all these years. So we're still paying all the bills. Okay.
Now, I do know that, because, Lori is obviously out of town, thank you for being here, but she had gone ahead and wrote a check of what we had paid this last year. So that has clearly, obviously that can be voided and created a check. We just need to kind of determine how we're gonna proceed and things. We do know that we're in talks and trying to work things out. My wish, honestly, would be that the CCIC and the Cass County Historical Society, in good faith, would remove a lot of these things and send us an amended bill.
Right.
For the year of 2025, while we're working through, the talks and, figuring out how to proceed forward. That would be my dream.
Right, because we really don't have any leverage since we have 1 seat out of 5.
No.
So we don't need professional fees, but would that be lawyers? The legal?
I think it's primarily,
It's just,
Yeah,
I
think it's primarily,
I think details of purchase, I see what you're saying, professional fees,
Yes.
like the 13,000.
Right.
Yeah. That's a good question.
I'm just kind of curious. The date on this letter is August 13th, and like I said, it showed up on the internet. I saw the first copy of this letter this week when Butch sent it to me as a CCIC member. So, and, frankly, I don't think at the meeting last month there was nothing discussed about this. So that's why I'm saying, they voted on it at the one meeting where we had no representation whatsoever.
And when did we receive this letter?
In the summer.
August.
In August, okay.
You gave me a copy of it was whatever the date is, it was after the August.
So which one did we use to figure the budget?
We used this.
Okay.
And we have figured for the full amount.
Okay, thank you.
Although the check that was written is different than that currently.
They heard that we were paying $87.72 on this year.
Right.
And that was based on, not asking any questions. The great speed was not on here last year. Not that that's a massive amount, but it literally just took off. Those 2 funds.
So who do we address these questions to? Our accountant? Do we just send a letter, a memo of some kind to the president, to Ms. Rohr? Who do we address these questions to get some of these answers?
I can tell you what I received in an email previously was that we needed to go through the lawyers for any questions or anything regarding any questions that we had with the
Okay.
CCPC. But that was prior to agreements to, work on this and try to figure stuff out. So I don't know if we can get, I don't know if Dennis as a CCIC board member could.
I actually requested um, the financial documents and including what the balance was in the maintenance fund, and basically was told I could get them. And I did not receive them. When I got an email from Butch this week, I thought that's what it was, and I opened it, it was the letter. So, now, like I say, I don't even remember this being addressed. Um, and have to tell you, sitting here looking at, I don't know what the right answer is on which way to pay, because uh, if we don't pay it, then all we're doing is continuing to fuel uh, uh, the animosity. But on the other hand, I've got some questions, like we're paying for internet that we don't use.
Don't have access to.
Yeah, don't even have access to. And yeah, we're paying for the trash. Why are we not being compensated for that? So, I do. I don't know what the answer is.
I was kind of thinking, I'm not in favor of paying into a replacement fund, but I was thinking, well, maybe we need to pay into a maintenance recovery fund as long as we're still in this building. But in talking with people here at the library, we're paying maintenance general up there to the tune of $17,930 a year. Or do we put our own $5,200 a year, our own money away in an escrow, that if there was a big maintenance that they're not going to cover, then we have that, but we probably have it backed up anyway, in our budgeting and stuff like that. I was just trying to think of some way to cross the line, build some goodwill, but maybe they don't want to build any goodwill. I don't know.
So what we could do, I mean, Dennis, if you would be willing to keep, asking questions and trying to get questions answered for this, what we could do is do just the amendment, removing those two funds as we've done in the past, in good faith that we'll get answers to these other questions, and if the library shouldn't be paying for internet or some of these other things, then that would be something that we can always come back and amend the payment. But I do believe it's the right thing to make something close to the approved, what the library sees as the correct payment.
And I see that again. I don't even know what the correct answer is there. Whether we, uh, try to keep the ball rolling if we pay them what they ask, but then we really don't have a chance to get it back, or we don't pay it, and then all that does is again fires up the animosity.
But I don't know, does it, because we are looking to go into these talks, and they do, I feel like there's a sense of on the historical society side that, yeah, I mean, the library isn't, this is taxpayer dollars, they're not looking to, you know, use taxpayer dollars for, something that the library's not compelled to have to pay for. Um,
And taxpayer dollars are being used to fund everything. So, since they're not paying their portion of the rent.
anything.
Well, I think it would be fair, if nothing else at this point, we've already paid them something for January.
No, we haven't yet.
Check through. Well,
An appropriate, I mean, that check can be voided based on what we do tonight. There will be a new check.
well, I don't, pay whatever amount we decide, I guess, but I think probably a letter needs to be sent directly um, to Lynn and and ask, we reviewed the bill and we had some questions because, yeah, if we're not using the internet at all, that's all Brightspeed is. So if we're not either using their phone or their internet, there's nothing there. So why are we paying, for their Brightspeed? So I think it's a fair question to ask, but uh, again, like you say, we do have a little bit of momentum to maybe trying to calm things, and I really don't want to stir things up, but yeah, it doesn't necessarily make sense. So.
What do you think, Julie?
I like your math. I was pulling out the two amounts for the funds times occupancy. At least start with that amount instead of like saying we have some questions since we were not represented at the meeting where this budget was approved.
And since we're paying for everything.
And for everything in good faith, we're sending you this as adjusted this way, but we have some questions about some of these other bills. And why are we paying them?
And as far as stirring up the water, I don't see how, if somebody was asking me to pay $12,000 for something that I'm not gonna give back, and I say I don't wanna pay it, I don't know why that would make that person upset.
And how much is in the fund already?
Yeah.
That they're already using as a slush fund to backfill the rents that aren't being paid.
So I would hope, Dennis, that they would understand.
Well, one of the things I asked was exactly how much money is in the fund, and the answer was enough.
And it's because you guys as a board member.
Yes. And I said that's not exactly a number, and
It would also be interesting to know, just we pay $100,000. Did their bills really go over $100,000 last year on these listed things there? Because if they're not getting money from the Historical Society, where are they getting that other
I was going to say
11.5%?
I gave you the financial.
Are they pulling from the funds?
I guess.
So the year to date, they were showing through September that was being, that the year to date, I think this is, January to September, they're showing expenses paid of $146,800. Now, I haven't gone through and looked at like each thing individually. They're showing their biggest expense was the building improvements, which I would say is Pearson Hall, right?
Well, Skylights, I think, were the big thing of that.
Yeah, we just got hits on Pearson this year.
So
Yeah.
we didn't have any more. I wouldn't call that an improvement. I would call that a maintenance issue personally, because there was so much leaking going on that there were areas that we couldn't even utilize because of those skylights. So I wouldn't consider those improvements. I would just consider that maintenance.
It's out of the maintenance fund, yes.
Yes. But so anyway, well, if nobody else has any thoughts. I mean, I like your idea, Dennis. Let's send a letter with the payment date. We'll decide on the payment. My suggestion would be that we pay the amended amount of the $9,127.30. I haven't made a motion just yet, but I guess I can make that motion. I move that the library amend the operational fee payments to the Cass County Information Center for 2025 in the amount of $9,127.30. And in so doing that, we send a letter, here's what we're doing. this is why we're doing it in good faith. We'd like to understand
Right,
details.
and I think we can tell them that before we make a February payment,
We'd like to have that
we'd like an
information.
explanation.
That's a good point.
And the only thing that and it's motion on the floor, so I better wait till there's a second.
I'll say that.
Okay.
Okay.
The only thing that I would like to say is just in the terms of our negotiations with them, and I will ask our financial people, would there be a way to internally say, take the whatever the difference was between they were building the 10,000 34 and the $900 and put it in a line item, to basically it stays in the library fund, but when all is said and done, if we end up having to, go back and pay, the money that's allocated for.
Well, Robin budgeted on top of this.
It's
Big
been
number,
budgeted.
so
I mean, we could just do some math and figure out what the number is.
But I'd say create a line item that way. If it comes down to, you need to pay this, then the money is already allocated in there.
It would just be.
It's accounting.
It's already accounting.
It's just accounting,
It's
but
there.
yeah, so that's they budgeted with the bigger
Must
number.
be surplus.
yeah.
So basically through the year, the line, the whatever we call it, the ranks or whatever, it's just gonna
Have a bigger number in there than what's being paid out.
Right. So
sits in there.
So we have a main bank account, and when it comes time for rent, Lori moves specifically what we're paying out into a separate account that is only used to pay those rents. So she only moves
what has
what we're actually paying,
so the other is
and
still
it's
staying
all
there.
sitting there in the general.
So it's sitting in that fund, that line item.
Right.
Yeah.
So we can certainly go back and calculate anything that needed to be.
Basically, the money would be there, Dennis.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so your motion was to pay the 9127 and send with a letter explaining why and asking about the 950.
Well, there's no adjustment for the trash.
Right, the trash. And what was the?
Right speed.
Yeah,
The rice fees, and then there was another question.
Professional services.
Yeah.
For what are the professional fees?
Then last year we did not pay the building replacement or the ones.
We haven't paid it since
Yeah.
April of 2020.
And so to throw that back in without discussing it with us, because we haven't paid it,
Right.
and then to throw it back in and figure it into our monthly.
And like I say, this was done before we really started having some talks and different things. So
Yeah, okay.
I would like for them in good faith to make that adjustment.
Yeah.
And maybe they will. Any other thoughts about this before I call the vote?
I have one more question. Exterminators, don't we pay a exterminating service here for our area, and then they're paying $600 a year for the other? There's more duplication there.
Any other duplication that you see? Have you seen it?
I don't have a copy.
Well, no.
That bottom part.
Right here.
I feel as much for me.
I mean, you had it, you just don't have mine.
I don't have that.
So.
Thank
Yeah. Yes, I can look mine. I just kind of sent it off, just send it.
I think that's all we needed.
This might just be a really bad update. I did notice immediately Mills Plumbing. Mills Plumbing doesn't exist anymore. It's Art Plumbing.
It's what plumbing?
R&R bought out. So this is obviously like an older invoice thing that they have just been.
This is July and August.
Even then, I'm pretty sure R&R's been bought out for almost a year now, or has been bought out for a minute now.
So basically, they're just, probably they've got a template and they're just
using it.
Yes, I just wanted to kind of throw it out there.
So they're still using the plumbing, even though they've got the separate plumber they have on staff
I
maintenance.
would say they have done repairs to different buildings and facilities that does track.
could probably go back and look at some of the past years and see what, I mean, compare these.
This is really our actual, there's estimating.
Yeah, those are the estimations.
So there's two different fires. I don't know what Delta Innovative
And I'm
Services
gonna
is.
say, you've got the copy of the only financial information they provided, so.
Should we,
Census Fire, what question is Census Fire?
just the overall cost of it. They do have fire extinguishers they handle, like kind of separately than us. We also use Centos on our end. But I don't think they have less than fire extinguishers to cover than we do. And I don't think our bill's even that high.
Is that a fire alarm?
That could be never mind. Okay, thank you. That actually probably is the difference. Most it would be easier if it was with them.
What's the difference between that and the one at the bottom of the pie maker fire safety?
That might be the inspections, I don't know.
Yeah, more than that, we have one back to.
That's true.
We do too.
Could be filling fire extinguishers too.
Well, that was the person who sent stuff.
They probably do either or. Or know about things, broken down.
Great.
I think anything else too obvious. Thank you.
Well, there's a miscellaneous for $3,000.
Well. Yeah, right now.
A good question. So we've got the questions on Brightspeed. You guys help me outline the professional fees. The service master cleaning. The miscellaneous, and then the exterminators. What's that?
And trash.
And then the trash, the library pays. Above and beyond. That's what this is. Does that sound right, Robin?
I think so.
Anybody else had anything else?
They don't list
That's the trash.
because we're paying for all of them.
Yeah, so trash, they don't have trash listed here.
Great.
So what do you want the wording? I mean, what do you want this to sound like? I don't know. I mean, I have the list here, but if you're wanting me to write the letter, I'm gonna need more guidance.
Well, dear CCIC board, we at the December 18th meeting, we voted to pay you da-da-da-da-da. And until we have a clearer picture of the budget, that's all we're going to pay. Or we question whether we should even pay that much. Number one, Brightspeed, we don't use. Number two, what professional services fees are we paying? Number three, please tell us, exterminators, we're already paying an extermination fee, so why should we be paying an additional one unless they're providing outside?
They do outside, I don't know.
Well, I think it's fair to point out that on some of this stuff, they broke it down, why didn't they break down the other things for us too,
Yeah.
Like insurance, how much of that?
We talked about it, but yeah, they insurance and contents for.
Yeah, are we paying for their contents? We pay for
The building,
contents.
Yeah.
Because we can work on what the
I mean,
wording of that.
I'd be glad to write a letter.
Work on the
I
wording of that.
had a life of
Well,
technical writing.
I believe the board, CCSE board meets in January, so even if we have a letter prepared.
And I mean,
I
Robin
don't know.
has vacation coming up and such, so I mean, I could write a letter in the next day or two asking some of these questions, send it back for you guys' approval. When it works, we'll print it out on letterhead and send it.
Yeah.
And did you want to include what you were saying about we want this information before February?
Well, I think that it should be termed as a friendly letter.
Right,
It's just
right.
receiving the explanation, but, please inform us, before we make a February check so that we can adjust accordingly.
But I'll be glad to write the letter. If that's all right with you.
The question isn't as to whether we're gonna, is there a question to?
We need to vote.
whether we're going to vote?
We need to vote.
Okay, so, the vote is to amend the payment to Cass County Information Center for 2025 to the amount of $9,127.30. That excludes the building replacement fund and the building maintenance recovery fund. So we'll take a roll call vote. Becky?
Yeah.
Sherry?
Yes.
Dennis?
Yes.
Diana?
Yes.
Tanya? Yes. And this is done for, the stuff and products and different things that really started to begin. So, I think this is probably straightforward. I would think this is just part of the process. Okay, that's all we have. So, is there anything else anyone had with respect to that? We'll provide to director reports.
Okay.
This is your appointment.
All right, my turn. So we hired a part-time flex position that we were just talking about here at Harrisonville, Michelle Brown. Under current openings, there's the 40-hour facilities coordinator position listed. That was just hired today. So that person, Ian, he'll be included in next month's list, but he's scheduled to start on January 6th. The rest of those positions are open, not currently posted, because we're going to wait until January 1st just to incorporate the new compensation increases that'll take effect then. And hopes that makes it easier for everyone. Also, there's not a ton of people that, are applying for stuff in these 2 weeks here. We've gotten our AWE early literacy computers that we got with that grant that we talked about a month or two ago. So Scott is going to go around and install those in places that have furniture already in place for that in the next week or two. And then we've ordered a little bit of furniture, little tables and a chair for the places that needed that to house these computers. So that should be happening in the next few weeks. As you'll notice from the decorations that are still in here, we had Nathan Schrock's retirement party. He was our courier driver for the last 10 years, and that was last Friday. And it was very nice. A lot of people came.
I thought those were for us.
They're also now they're for you.
So have we found a new driver?
No, those are the two those will be in the current openings. There's 2 part-time courier positions, and those will take the place of his former position.
Right now, we should kind of fill in people doing it, right?
Well, the outreach staff is filling in since we've got the mobile down for the next several weeks. So it kind of works out. That's planned that way, but
Yeah, it worked out pretty well.
Work out that way.
That's nice. All right, cool.
Couple things. One, there was a request to kind of give an update on the NRC moisture. So, as I said in the packet, the repairs to the roof inside the tower, like they've been getting in there and addressing those, and they've actually ended up putting like a waterproof, proof, proof paint application on the tower so that because I guess they can't do what they need to do until the weather cooperates. So in order to prevent any more water to get in there in the time being, they put this waterproof layer. Um, and then they have for the exterior wall that's getting the weird crystallization. They drilled weep holes on the outside, and over time that is supposed to allow for all the moisture that's built up in that wall and any future moisture that might want to build up in that wall to evaporate out. Um, and then the plan is by the spring of this next year that should be taken care of and alleviated, and which time they will then take care of scraping the wall, doing any repairs that need to be done to it, and getting it repainted. Yes.
So we really haven't had any rain to judge, but
Not in the past week or so, but it was a couple of weeks ago that we got some that there was more moisture, and that is when like Rod reported it to us and he reported it to the building management company, and I followed up with him later that day and he said that the roofers had come out. So it sounds like they're being responsive. They've been chasing these leaks all around, and it seems like this is like the final frontier. Like if we can get this taken care of, then that should take care of the roof part.
There has been good back and forth communication with all parties, and the fact that they came out last week and did the exterior wall was a big step. And so, presuming that that works, then yeah, finishing the interior wall should be the final step of that half of the problem.
We just gotta give it time.
Yeah.
Because we gotta have the right
conditions. The right conditions, but again, like the last conversation that we had, as a group, with both the owner and the management company and the library, they put timelines on all of these things, which this is the first time we've had real timelines for the whole, for all the different aspects of the moisture issues. So, um, mhm. Also, I don't know if you noticed in your monthly review, but our net promoter score is 83 this month, and that's an awesome, great thing, and I will tell you why. Um, First of all, the Net Promoter Score, basically, we send out these monthly reviews now, these newsletters, Danielle authors and promotes different things that are happening across the library system. And in that is, if you want to click through, you can fill out a survey. And the Net Promoter Survey is basically like on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to recommend the library to someone that you know? And based on their response, that is what calculates the net promoter score, and that's everyone's responses are aggregated. And so you basically subtract the percentage of people who would be detractors, so they would be less likely or not likely at all to recommend. You subtract that from the promoters, which would be the ones on the higher end of that would, and that's what gives you the score. And so being at 83 is very, very high. I mean, the range could go from negative 100 to 100. So we're very, very high on that. Libraries do tend to be, in all honesty, higher. But just to give you kind of some comparisons, like Starbucks is at around 77, Amazon's around 62, Costco's at 52, which I was shocked because I love Costco. But some people, I guess, have some issues. And then Tesla's 97, and Netflix is 68, at least for now. So I just wanted to point that out. We've started to see that trend up very solidly since the monthly newsletters have gone out. So we've been able to get more feedback, and that feedback has actually been positive feedback. So, update on community needs assessments planning process. We have dates, we have places. The North meeting. We're doing a North and a South County meeting. And the North meeting will be Tuesday, January 21st at the Creekmore Golf Club in Raymore. And the South meeting will be Thursday, January 30th at the Cider House on 7th. And we have our invitations, our invitee lists that we're finalizing, and we'll send out those invitations after the first of the year. We don't want them to get lost or buried over the holidays. Steve Potter, as part of his consulting with us on the capital improvement plan, he will lead those meetings. And there will be catered lunch provided for the attendees because we'll start mid-morning, go through to about mid-afternoon is the plan. We have a backup, we have contingency dates that second week in February, just in case weather ends up being an issue for one or both of them. So hopefully that won't come into play, but we're trying to prepare just in case, just at this time of year. It's hard to know.
Will you want us to participate in those, or?
I think the way that Steve we really want to make sure we get community input without them feeling like they're being like that there's anyone there that's wanting certain things said or anything like that or whatnot. So, I mean, no one's going to tell you no, but we're trying to get the most authentic feedback we possibly can because it's not like we do these all the time or we'll be able to do these kind of things all the time.
But we'll basically be there to provide context to questions and things. But yeah.
But even our participation is not very much. I think I'm supposed to give some kind of presentation just about the library in general, like what we do and the history of the library, that kind of thing. But otherwise, we're not really participating in anything. But we're taking notes. So the report, the information will be aggregated and then brought to the board, and we can use that moving forward on a lot of things, really. But we're doing this as part of that capital improvement planning. Okay, and then I just wanted to finalize, Navigate Building Solutions and Stiefel Finance are prepared to present the information from their feasibility study to you all for consideration in January. And that tentative date we've got is Thursday, January 9th. For that, we would do a special executive session in real estate for it. There is specific real estate information that will be discussed. And I just wanted to confirm, will 9 a.m. at the Pleasant Hill branch work for everyone to schedule that? Now, there was a bit of a shift. We originally talked about afternoon, but just going through everyone's feedback, it looked like the morning might actually be better, and it does work at the branch in their community room, but just as long as they do have a program in the afternoon, so we can't be in there all day. But
my question is why are we holding it in Pleasant Hill?
well, that is new construction, so
That's why.
that's new construction. I mean, that's going to give you a vibe of what we're talking about. So
Yep, it works for me.
yeah, okay, wonderful. I'll get that confirmed. That is all I have.
Anything on the trustee side of things?
The foundation will meet again in January and elect officers. And we have a Christmas tree up at the Raymore Park Department with books and such as ornaments, laminated book covers as ornaments. And in my trustee comments on December 13th, last Friday, was the 77th birthday of the library system. December 13th, 1947, there was I don't think any of us were around then, there was a tea at the Harrisonville Hotel, and over 500 people attended. And it was after the state of Missouri authorized libraries in 1945. And the main purpose of the Cass County Library System then was to provide library services to all of the smaller schools, the one-room schools, the K8, well, it wasn't K then, through 8th grade. They did have a bookmobile by the next spring, and the local library provided most of the services for the city of Harrisonville schools. And as the city of Harrisonville, the school system built up their libraries, that dropped off, but the bookmobile went to so many of the schools in the area. I have an interesting history of the library, and if someone would like a copy, I'd be glad to get them to you, but a former board member had a copy of it and passed it along to me. But last week was the 77th birthday of the library. Okay. Robin has a copy, so maybe that'd be the best thing, that maybe she can scan it and send it to us or something. That'd be.
Anybody else have any comments or anything before we? I will entertain a motion to recess to executive session for legal.
I'll second it.
What's your roll call vote? Do you recess? The executive?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes. Thanks so much for coming. Appreciate it, Daniel. It's good to see you.